Okay, well, thank you very much, guys. It's kind of an honor to be here with you. And like I said, on Monday, I'll be 81. It's amazing. I still can't believe it myself. But I figured 19 more years to go, and then maybe I'll consider retirement. We'll see what happens. But I actually have a plaque on the wall in my office, and it says my retirement plan takes place 5 years after I'm dead. That's my retirement plan. So we'll see what happens. Anyway, thank you. Okay, I'm going to begin tonight. Of course, we're doing step one. So I picked step one from the language of letting go. It's on January 25th in the booklet. We admit we're powerless over alcohol, that our lives have become unmanageable. There are many different versions of the first step for recovering codependence. Some of us admitted powerless over alcohol or another's alcoholism. Some of us admit powerlessness over people. Some over the impact of growing up in an alcoholic family. One of the most significant and most powerful words in the first step is the word we. We come together because of a common problem, and in coming together, we find a common solution. Through the fellowship of 12-step programs, many of us discover that although we may have felt alone in our pain, others have experienced a similar suffering. And now many are joining hands in a similar recovery. We are a significant part of recovery, a shared experience, a shared strength, stronger for sharing, a shared hope for better lives and relationships. Today, I will be grateful for the many people across the world who call themselves recovering codependents. Help me know that each time one of us takes a step forward, we bring the entire group with us. I really enjoyed that reading this morning. It's really special because when I get into the steps, I would say a couple of things about the steps just for a couple of minutes. I can say this honestly from my own heart, that I'm looking at somebody who studied a lot of theology in my life, and I have a lot of pieces of paper I can hang up on the wall. If you want to see them, come and look. They're in Latin. I don't even know what they say, but they're beautiful. I learned nothing about life, nothing about spirituality, nothing about growth until I got connected to the 12 steps. The 12 steps are 12 basic, simple principles that teach us self-love, self-awareness, self-discovery, a beautiful sense of self. And the early founders, when they put this together, I marvel at this, because you have these men who came together. They were primarily men, a few women, but they came together, fought with each other, back and forth with one another, and put this program together. They drew from some of the great writings of the world, the Torah, the Bible. They also drew from the Tao Te Ching, the 81 verses of the Tao, written by Chinese philosopher Latu 2,500 years ago. The simple, beautiful principles of life, the 81 verses of the Tao, so powerful. I realize now they were able to pull this stuff together, put together a very simple program to help us to be able to find out who we are and to grow. You notice the first 11 steps are for us to work on ourselves. The 12 steps said, having had a spiritual awakening, having done your work, to carry a message to others. So we share by the way we live our lives. Whenever I do the steps, I always divide them up into 3 parts. Steps 1 through 3 I refer to as the foundation steps. Everything in life that's healthy and beautiful and strong has to have a good, solid foundation. And so the first 3 steps of the program are the foundation of our growth, the foundation of what this really is all about. Steps 4 through 9 I call the working steps. We actually do our work. Then steps through 10, 11, and 12 are called the gratitude steps, or the daily, everyday living steps. What I found so beautiful about this concept, you heard me talk about this before. One of my favorite analogies is called the three-legged stool. I love the symbol of the three-legged stool, and it's really put together by AA. The three-legged stool are the first 3 steps of the program, holding up the foundation of growth. And so tonight, what I want to do is start that process and talk about step 1. The first step is probably the most important step in the program, because you'll notice the step says something very powerful and very beautiful. It says we admitted about our powerlessness. We admitted to the things that made us powerless in life. So tonight what I want to do is I'm going to share what I call 5 very beautiful words. They're special words, even though some of them might be a little negative, but they're powerful, beautiful words. The 5 words are unmanageability, denial, powerlessness, admit, and accept. But right at the center of those 5 words is the word powerless. I truly believe this. 2 of the greatest gifts God gives us on the face of this earth is the gift of powerlessness and the gift of pain. Now, don't hit me, but pain is part of the journey. Struggle is part of the journey. We learn things, and I know about you, I'm talking about me now. We learn things the hard way because we've got to do it our way first. Then we have to realize the fact that we're part of a larger world. We're part of one another. And we need to realize the fact that's why that step starts with the word we. The most beautiful, the most powerful word. We can't do anything in life alone. You heard the phrase, it takes a family to raise a child. All of us now are part of a family. And we need each other. We learn from one another. And the wisdom of the early founders, when they put in that concept of no crosstalk, that we come together, we just share with one another. I have a nickname for that. I call it the human library. Each one of us is a book in process of being written. Your story and my story is the greatest story on the face of this earth. And every day we wake up, a new chapter goes into our book. Whenever we come together in the rooms and we share with one another, we're drawing from the human library. And how this beautiful thing works is together we learn from each person we listen to. And as we listen and learn from one another, we begin to realize the fact that many of us are able to relate to different parts of different people's lives, which means we're all interconnected. Remember last week I talked about interconnection. We're all interconnected to one another. No one's any better. We're all part of one another as part of the journey. That's why it's important to understand how these words work. I have a choice. God gave us a free will. Whenever I experience powerlessness, and there's many things in life we're powerless over. We're powerless over the weather. We're powerless over the electric company. We're powerless over a lot of different things we experience in life. Every day we experience powerlessness. Sometimes powerless over things we can do. And maybe some of us want to go back and be 18 again, but we're not going to go back, let's face it. We're going to move on. Last time I checked, by the way, we all got a round trip ticket. And one day it'll get punched. There's a beginning, and there's an ending to everything. It's part of the journey. It's how it's supposed to be. And that's why even life has a journey to it. We have birth, we have a child, we have a young adult, we go into middle age, we go into adulthood, and then we go into that beautiful thing called old age. It is beautiful, by the way. It aches a little bit, but it's beautiful. What can I tell you? And so as we go through the journey of life, we have to realize we're in this constant process of experiencing new things and learning, and also the process of letting go. And so every time we experience powerlessness, we have a choice. We can either deny it or we can admit to it. If we deny it, we're given the gift of unmanageability. And by the way, many of us are used to that. And as a result, some of us even flourish on it. I tell people this because I just want to be as honest as I can be. The last time I checked, dysfunctionality is part of life. The world we live in by nature is dysfunctional. The last time I checked, nothing but human beings running around here. And dysfunctionality has been around since the beginning of time, so it gets a bad name. But dysfunctionality, if we're able to face it, embrace it, learn from it, grow from it, it can become our teacher. And so instead of trying to change the world, we have to learn to change us, to work on us. But in the beginning, even though we experience unmanageability, many of us will admit to it. but admitting is not enough. The hardest thing is coming to acceptance. Admitting is intellectual. I always share this. There's two types of recovery. There's intellectual recovery and there's gut recovery. Many of us have no problem at all with intellectual recovery. It means I have all the information, I have all the right words, I read all the right books. I basically can organize everything, I can be in charge of it. But intellectual recovery is only temporary. And that's why many of us have to run something called the gauntlet. And it goes like this. I experience powerlessness, go through some pain and struggle, deny it, my life becomes unmanageable. So I admit I got a problem. I admit for a while, because I'm intellectual, I try to figure it out. Here's that mind working again. I got to go back and have some more denial, some more unmanageability, some more admitting, some more denial, some more. It's almost like a song I have to sing. It's called running the gauntlet. I have to get to a point where I get sick and tired of being sick and tired. I almost have to wear out. My father used to say, we all have a disease. It's called incapitosa. In Italian, that means brickhead. You got to do it the hard way first, get enough pain, get enough struggle, even though we're able to say, I know. Remember the I know disease? I love that disease. People say, don't you see what you're doing to yourself? I know. Of course you know. It's up here. It's intellectual. But the amazing part about it, we keep doing it. Why? Because we're used to what things were. Many of us are scared of change. We're scared of moving forward. In my own life, I lived in that denial world, even though I was admitting to a lot of things, for 44 years of my life. The priesthood was a great hiding place for me for a long time. It kind of gives you a place to be. But I realize now how to measure fear inside of me. Fear of growth, fear of change, fear of being able to actually become responsible and move forward. I always say a lot of times that many of us have a tendency to want to live in fantasy. And by the way, don't get me wrong, I love fantasy. It's wonderful. If you think you're in fantasy, but many of us don't know we're in it. So we think we have this magical world. And we all do a lot of denying, a lot of running away, a lot of hiding, until we finally have to admit, and then through struggle and sadness and grief and saying goodbye and change, we'll come to acceptance eventually. Acceptance is one of the most spiritual and beautiful words in the English language. But getting there is a lot of hard work. And that's why the steps are so powerful, because they will bring us on this journey. And the journey they're going to bring us on is not just a one-time journey. It's a way of life. So the steps are really a living part of our life. That's why we're always having powerlessness. We're always learning new things. We're always going through the process of growing. So change is part of the process we go through. Look at my own life, and I can only share my own story, but when I was in the priesthood, it was a comfortable place to be. It was nice. They paid all my bills for me. It's wonderful. Billy likes that. They paid all my bills for me. They gave me a car. I didn't have any responsibility. They even gave me a housekeeper who washed my clothes, cooked meals for me, cleaned my room. God, I have to do anything. Now, we call that, I called it back then, organized welfare. But the bottom line was, you get very comfortable for 32 years living that way. And then you begin to look at what you want to do, how you want to move forward. It's amazing sometimes how I realized I really had no idea who I was. I was scared to move forward because it means walking out into the unknown, walking out to a new world, doing a sense of responsibility, learning how to live in reality, learning how to take responsibility, how to earn a living, how to be able to move forward. It's scary a lot of times. It's much easier to go back to what's comfortable. Addicts know exactly what I'm talking about. Because when you're in addiction is your normal. Even though it might be sick, but you're comfortable in it because you're used to it. You come into recovery, I see so many addicts come into recovery and be scared to death to move forward in recovery. We don't realize this, but change is scary. Just to give an example, when I was a prison chaplain, I used to run a halfway house in Atlantic City for ex-convicts. And I remember going up to Trenton State Prison to pick up a guy getting, released to our house. This man had served 18 years of hard time in state prison, which meant he was never outside the walls of that prison for 18 years. I picked him up. He signed the parole papers, got to the front door, and guess what he said to me? I don't want to go out there. I want to go back in. I says, you can't. And literally, he said to me, well, if you take me out there, I'm going to commit another crime, so they put me back in. And I began to understand what was going on in his head. That had become such a normal way of life, even though it was a horrible way of life. It was normal to him. To walk into that world, walk into the unknown, when I took him outside, it's almost like he looked around. He was like a little kid, almost shaking, scared. This big guy shaking and couldn't wait to get in my car. He was scared out of his mind. He didn't know how to function. These are things that happen to many of us in the course of our journey. And so we go through changes and new directions in life, and we begin to experience this change process. So the first step is powerful because it's telling us, sooner or later we have to get to that point where I can get away from the intellect and get into my gut, begin to feel, begin to process things, and begin to work through them. Yes, it's hard work. Doing your step work is not easy. I'm in a process right now doing another fourth step with a few people. We're doing it together as a group, and it's not easy to do, because you really have to get honest. You got to be able to process things and work through them, but and sharing them and connecting with others. I'm learning from the people I'm sharing them with as we do our fourth and fifth step together. I'm learning all these things. I'm learning to be able to learn more things about myself and learn from others. Because each person that shares teaches me something new about myself. That's what I mean about that concept of we need each other. We need to be connected to each other. That's why it's we, not I. And to me, that is one of the most important words in all of the 12 steps, the word we. We need to be interconnected. We need to learn from each other. And so eventually we'll come to acceptance. But I use an analogy to get this. So it's my favorite analogy. I might as well share it. We first come into anything in life, codependency, no matter what it is, we always come in through our head. It's the entrance point. Because up here, I'm in charge. I can think, I can analyze, I can figure things out. I can buy all the books, I can be connected. It's wonderful, it's great. I don't have to make any decisions, but I don't have to talk to anybody, share anything. It's all up here. If you hang around long enough, gravity takes over and it goes down. You start to see some things. You connect to some things. Then your ears start to work. You start hearing things. Then eventually it gets down to your mouth. And you start talking and sharing a little bit. But it's a little scary. Then it gets down to your chest area. And you begin to go through that transition, that change. It actually is more painful, the powerlessness. Then it gets to your gut. And in your gut, you have to process it. Now, the stuff that's wonderful and great to be learned from all this, that we process it, goes down to our feet and we walk our talk. We live it. The stuff that's negative goes out the rear end. It's a process we talk about. So we can learn from our human process. The Indians used to always talk about the fact that everything you learn in life, you learn from your physical body, from nature, from everything around you. Everything has a story. Everything's interconnected. There's a purpose behind it all. That's why I love reading my Indian meditation book in the morning and doing my meditations based around some of the ancient writings of the Indians. It's such a powerful process when you come right down to it. Because that's that connection. And they emphasize over and over again that spiritual connection to each other, even to the animals and things around us, which are so important. So we learn and we grow from each other. And so we have to come to that gift of acceptance, where I come to a place where I finally learn the greatest art there is in the world, the art of surrender. I surrender. Help me, please. I want to share a story with you. It's one of my favorite little books. It's called The Confessions of St. Augustine. St. Augustine, or St. Augustine, was a saint in the Catholic Church, but his story is very powerful. Here's a man that in our day and age, if he was alive, would have been classified as a sex addict, a womanizer, probably a drug addict and alcoholic. His life was chaotic, insane, and crazy. He was nothing but a party man, insane. He was totally out of control. He lived that way for a long period of time till he got to a point, and he says this a lot, he got to a point where he got so tired and so fed up with the lifestyle that he went to a state of despair. He was at a verge in his life of committing suicide. He had gone way down to the bottom. And it says that he fell on his knees and he said, please, please, somebody help me. And when he said that, the story goes that a hand reached down, grabbed his shoulder, helped him to get up, and went with him. And he started his journey on the other side. His life changed completely, but he couldn't do it alone. If you go to a meeting today, there actually is a 12-step meeting today called SLAA, Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous. It's actually nicknamed the St. Augustine Fellowship. It's named after him because of his background and what he went through. But the thing that that story brings out is this. It's okay to feel that pain. It's okay to go to that place. But the most important thing is to be able to say those magical, powerful words. I surrender, please help me. I can't do this by myself anymore. I need you in my life. Help me, please. So the first step is laying a powerful foundation. It's telling us that deep down inside, we all need one another. We can't walk the journey of life by ourselves. And we're going to meet all different kinds of personalities on that journey. We're going to meet people, maybe that'll aggravate you. They're good people because they teach you patience and tolerance. You're going to meet people that you'll enjoy, but you'll meet all kinds. And as a result, then you'll learn from them and you'll grow from them. I aggravate Loretta all the time. It's not a problem. Or she still lets me keep coming back. So we're connected to each other. It's all part of one another. That's a big part of it. So we learn, we grow, but we got to struggle and we got to go through this process. It's almost like the grieving process in many ways. What I'm doing is saying goodbye to the old me and hello to the new me. But you can't say hello till you say goodbye. It's called closure. And so life has this constant process of new journeys. I get a kick out of it today because we try to do everything not to be old. We have anti-aging creams. We have all this kind of stuff and everything else. But guess what? You still get old, no matter what, no matter what happens. I always joke, I tell you this so many times, they say, eventually you're going to develop a few leaks. I won't get into that too much. Eventually you'll do a couple extra burping. The hairlines will change. Things will happen. Isn't that the adventure of life? It's totally amazing. Please don't hit me, not tonight. But the beautiful thing is, it's part of our journey. There's things I can do today I couldn't do before because I've learned more. There's also things today I can't do that I could do before. And that's okay. So we have to learn that beautiful concept of you can't live in a fantasy world. You can go there once in a while just for have some fun, but eventually you have to go into reality. And wherever we are on our life journey today is our reality for today. Eventually that reality means we have to learn a constant process, another spiritual word, the process of adjustment. We're always adjusting to new things, new people, new concepts, new directions in life. And from that adjustment comes this acceptance. So the most powerful part about that first step is surrender and acceptance, but it comes in time. And I just wish somehow, we could do it a lot easier, but there is no easy way. I'm learning that. There's always a struggle you have to go through. We got to go through our losses, got to go through our changes, we got to go through our joy or celebration. It's a mixture of so many things that make up the mosaic of life. Joy is part of that mosaic. Sadness is part of that mosaic. Loss is part of it. Growth is part of it. Everything in life is this constant process. But it's this big mosaic we're creating. What's so beautiful about a mosaic, everything has its own individuality, and yet it all comes together into something very beautiful. Just like us. We all have our individual personalities. A little earlier today in singing happy birthday, we experienced some very interesting voices, especially our leader. But anyway, the bottom line was we're all individuals. We all have different personalities and different things. We can laugh, we can be together, and at the same time, we can cry. Isn't that wonderful? Be able to laugh and cry makes such a big part of life, big part of our journey. That's what I mean about feeling and being in touch with feelings. It's so powerful and so beautiful, and yet it's so simple. You know what's so powerful about this? People say it all the time, I know. If only I had known this when I was 20 years old. Guess what? You would have did exactly what you did when you're 20 years old, even if you knew it, because you weren't ready. So we got to go through the fire to get to the fire extinguisher. You got to go through the struggle to get to the other side. It's called life. I always love the old Philadelphia Bulletin. My favorite comic strip in the Bulletin was Iggy. I love Iggy. I can't help it. He's a little butterball. He's a pretty neat guy. But he was looking for the secret to everything, the secret to this, the secret to that. And so one day, one of the famous comic strips, he decides to climb this beautiful mountain because at the top of the mountain lives the guru who will teach him how to deal with life. So he works hard to get to the top of the mountain. And there sits the old guru. He walks up to the guru, gets on his knees, and he says, "Oh, sacred guru, teach me the secret to life." Guru looked at him and said, "Go down and live. That's the secret to life. Get your backside down that mountain and just live one day at a time. Do the best you can. Try to learn the best you can for anything in life." That's why this step is a foundation step. Did you ever notice something in Center City, Philadelphia? I used to love this when I was younger. When they were building some of those skyscrapers, usually you see a big fence, and there's knot holes in the fence so you can look. You look down, you see this big hole. And all these people running around the hole. And you pass it every day, and you keep looking in the hole. You say, when's the building going to go up? They've been down running around that hole now for almost a month and a half. What's going on? Then one day, all of a sudden, the building starts going up. But now you realize those little characters running around that hole all those days and that month were laying the foundation for that building to be able to stand. They had to have a solid foundation. The foundation takes a lot of work, but the building becomes beautiful as a result of it. The same thing as regards us in our program. Same thing as us in life. Life has to have foundations. As our foundations get stronger and stronger, then we get stronger and stronger. And so we go back to our roots, our foundations, our basics. So in our 12-step program, we're taught in those first 3 steps, the roots and foundations of recovery, the basics, the fundamentals. We're given the diagram or the blueprint. We realize the fact that we can't do it alone. That's why there's that famous 3 statements. I can't, he can, I'm going to let him. See, to walk the journey of life and to walk the journey of recovery all by yourself is a lonely journey, a lonely journey. I don't know about you, but I feel very privileged today. I actually belong to 3 families, and I love it. My recovery family, whom I love, very special people. my wife's family, whom I love deeply too, connected to them, and my wonderful, insane, crazy Italian family too. I love them all because I've learned from every one of them. They're all part of the journey. More than likely, my mom's standing here right now. My dad's probably on the other side. My mom is probably holding the spoon, telling me I better say the right thing or we'll get smacked. I always remember the spoon. It was a beautiful part about the journey. And as a result, then, mom didn't hit me too often, though, because she basically loved me a lot, almost too much. But what can I tell you? But the bottom line was at least she had a spoon. And that's the beautiful part. I didn't have to get hit. As soon as they held the spoon up, you saluted. You did exactly what they wanted you to do as soon as the spoon went up. It was like a symbol. So the thing is, we learn in life, we need these things. And so the steps actually are, that's why they call them the steps. They're steps to a journey of discovery, to a journey of being able to experience who we are as people, a journey of growth. And so many people make the mistake in recovery of wanting to go through the steps one time and then they say, I did the steps. No, you don't do the steps. You live the steps each day, one day at a time. Powerlessness will come in different directions. Change will come in different directions. There'll be days when we're going to be able to ask for guidance, ask for direction, ask for help. But I guarantee you, if you try to do it by yourself, it's a lonely journey. So do me a favor. This is for all our wonderful codependents in the room, okay? If you have that cape that has an S on the back of it, please pack it up and put it away. Stop trying to save the world. Walk your journey, because I'm going to tell you how this program works. If you walk the journey of your own recovery, then you will carry a message by the way you live your life. It's so simple and so beautiful. That's why the steps are just a way of life. You can apply them to anything in life at all. I love the last words they put in the 12th step where they say, practice these principles in all of your affairs. Doesn't mean go out and have affairs. It just says practice these principles in all aspects of your life. They probably could have used a better word, but that's all right. But the bottom line is, maybe some of them, what can I say? Who knows? But the bottom line is, it's all part of the journey. And that's why, we've got to laugh a little bit. We've got to look at life. We've got to get through. And yes, we're going to have setbacks. Remember, real growth is taking 10 steps forward and 8 backwards. Made you make progress. My favorite saying in recovery is progress, not perfection. Progress. A little bit here, a little bit there, makes a lot later on. And so what I want to be able to do is we go through the first step. Remember, the first step means we, remember that word, never forget it, because we can't do it alone. We need one another. We also have to learn to go through our struggle and hopefully come to surrender and acceptance. Surrendering is not negative, it's positive. To simply say, I can't do it, I surrender. I need help. Please help me. It's a beautiful part of it. I've learned, even in the Bible, they tell us, ask and you shall receive, seek and you shall find. If you ask for guidance, you will get it. If you ask for ways to help you, you will get it. And I really believe that this involves something we'll talk about in the next session. We do steps 2 and 3. We'll talk a lot about faith, belief, and the concept that everything will come to us, but it will come in God's time, not in our time. It comes in God's time, not ours. That's where patience comes into play. We just got to work through this and just enjoy each day, one day at a time. If you don't get everything done today, good. Good. Remember that, okay? Okay, Loretta, don't forget that. You don't get everything done today, it's okay. Because there's nothing, if you wake up tomorrow, then you look at some of it tomorrow. Eventually, you know what, in spite of us, we all get there. And so I just want to share with you tonight, as I share a prayer, is to realize the importance of that first step. We're taking the first step on the journey. Next week, we'll talk about steps 2 and 3. The steps of the higher power, and also learning how to let go. I don't know about you, but the hardest thing in my life was letting go of control. I really thought I had to run everything. It was only my defense mechanism. I'm learning today. I can ask for help. Don't believe me? Ask my wife. I asked her for help all the time in everything. I mean, even this machine called the computer. You know, you think I could do this by myself? You got to be out of your mind. You know, so it's real interesting. I need other people to show me the way and guide me. And then maybe I'll learn it. And some things I will. Some things I'm really too stubborn to learn, but maybe I'll get them eventually. It's all part of it. So keep smiling, keep enjoying, and just work that step, surrender, acceptance, and look within the mirror tonight and see how beautiful and special you are, because you are God's creation. You are the book of life for yourself. And your book is the greatest book on the face of this earth. Never take it for granted. And every day that you walk this earth, you write a new chapter. Keep working on that book. But a book needs to be shared. And so visit the human library as much as possible and learn as much as you possibly can from each other. That's why I love it so much. Let us pray. God, we come before you. We ask for your guidance. We ask for your direction. You are very special. If we ask for help and ask for guidance, you will send messengers and teachers into our life. Help us to be open to them. Teach us to realize that even the struggles we have to go through are things we have to earn. But teach us to realize how much we need each other. We're part of one another. We thank you for all those who have gone before us, those who have left this world either early or later in life. Every one of them has been one of our teachers. We learn from all those who have gone before us, for they also are a family of support today. They are here with us, for their spirit is part of who we are. We are all connected. We are all family. Teach us to respect one another, honor each other, care for each other, but above all, be able to pray for one another. And God, we ask you, please, please walk with us and give us the strength to listen to your messengers when they arrive. I know, God, that sometimes I won't like some of those messengers, but help me to listen to them also, for they are from you and they are our teachers. So we come together as a family tonight and we pray that we together, we as one together, are able to surrender to the things we have to surrender to, accept the reality of life and where we are, and be open to new things and new directions, and do this one day at a time until we come back to join you. We ask this, we pray this in your name. We ask you guide us every day. We ask this and we thank you. Amen. And now I'm going to ask you if you would just unmute and if you share with me the wee version of the Serenity Prayer. Love that prayer.
God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. God's will, not mine, be done.